This is the Nutters Election House. It was originally on Snow Hill Road, right where something called the Hollywood Development was. Hollywood Development consisted of two roads in a big circle and the road in the back eventually, and that was called Cardinal Drive and Meadowlark Drive. And this faced, as it comes out on Snow Hill Road, this faced it. And I voted there in the last two elections before they closed it. I voted there. Now, originally, when you walked in, there were two of these booths like this. There was one in that corner and one in this corner, just where it sat. The person that was keeping the records sat right here. There was a wood stove right there, or coal, whatever it was. There was a stove right there that went into that wall, and we tore that down when we moved it, and tore it down because the roof was having problems. And so we got that corrected later. But it was here from in the 1930s when it was built until about 1970, I'm saying 72, 76, somewhere in there, when it was stopped being used by the county. And being that I was in that area, I was redirected to go to one of the schools, and then later on I was directed to go to the Civic Center, and that's where I voted from then on. But they closed this. It sat there for a while, I think probably about 10 years, and then the county gave it to the Wicomico Historical Society, and we paid to have it moved from there to the water treatment plant here in Fruitland. And that's where it sat until about 3 years ago. We talked with the city of Fruitland and made arrangements to move it here. We paid for the move. They paid for putting the foundation in and the work that they've done on it since then. But we got it here, and they haven't used it very much. They got it set up as a history of Fruitland. All the pictures that are on the wall all the way around are about Fruitland and Fruitland's history. It talks about the Holly auctions. It talks about a number of old houses that are here, or that were here in Fruitland. So it gives a pretty good history about Fruitland. So we went ahead and paid for having it moved down here and placed in this place. They put the foundation in, and so that's how it got here. The election house was used for all of the national elections, the general elections, and the local elections. And that voting machine was last used for one of the local elections. And so it only has a few ballots on it, like for judge of circuit court or something like that. The other things that are back there, with a few things, I didn't take any of the things they had on the walls off. So the things that I put on, and these things were all donated by the NAB Center. So they loaned them to us so that we could use them. We'll be having this open the 2 weekends before the national election, both Sunday and Saturday, the 2 weeks before the election. So one will be something like the 2nd and 3rd, because I think the election's on the 5th. So we'll have it open the 2nd and 3rd of November, and the 27th, 28th, something like that, of October. And so that's from 1 to 4 each day. So I'm trying to get a little bit of advertisements about it, and PAC 14 said that they would come in and let everybody see what we had. Are there any questions that anybody has?
When was it built?
This was built in, I believe it was 1932. I believe that's what it was.
Or 38.
38.
How many more of these election houses was there in the county?
You know, I do not have any idea.
I never heard of another one.
No, I haven't either, but I don't have any idea. And maybe the election board is going to come out here sometime probably next week and go through it. Maybe I can get some information from them. So they're,
Jim, was it built as a county building? Did the county build it, or is that what prompted it? Was the county
yeah,
the owner of it?
I believe it came to us from the county, yes. I'm sure it came to us from the county.
I'm assuming that there was other election districts had a place they could vote and others didn't.
Well, you know, if you look at the wall over there, you'll see the election district, and you can see how many different election districts we had. So it's very possible that there were other places. I think a lot of places had a place central in them that they could vote.
Church hall or?
Yeah, a church hall, something else, and between Salisbury and where it leaves Wicomico County, apparently there wasn't anything out here. So maybe that's the reason why this might be the only one. But that's something I can look into and try to get an answer to. Thank you. We've been, you know, very pleased with it. They've got it very nice. I've thought about opening the outside pieces, but I thought, well, I looked in and it was pretty dirty in there, and I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. So this is what we've got. Now, the different memorabilia that we have here, as I say, all came from the NAB Center, and there are buttons, there are what they call coins that were election coins. There are two of those. One was from, I think it was FDR, and there's another one from, I think Kennedy in there. So these are two different buttons, and I tried to put them pretty much in order. Originally I was only going to use the top shelf, and we ended up with too much. I didn't want stuff out where I was going to have people coming in and maybe pick something up, so I wanted to have it safe. Any other questions I can answer?
I was going to ask, was there long lines to vote, or?
No, at least not the times that I voted. No, and probably picked a time when there weren't a lot of people around. I don't remember, but I was working at the time, so I would be in and out the home, and I'd find a time when I could vote.
Where Nutter's Crossing Road come into Snow Hill Road, how far back was it?
It was pretty close to the front. I'd say it wasn't over 20 feet from the road.
Yeah, but how far was it? Was it right at the crossing?
No, it was right at where the entrance to the road came in from the Cardinal Drive, and that's the name of the street as it comes out. It was right across from that, and I believe that, from what I understand, one of the mayors of Salisbury lived right next to it. I think it was Mayor Ruark, but I'm not positive. But one of the mayors of Salisbury apparently lived right next to it. He may have said, go ahead and use this land to put it on, and they did. And you know, once it was closed, they probably wanted the land back. That's why we had to move it.
It actually looks bigger on the inside than it looks on the outside.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Jim, could you do me a favor? You're so well versed in this and a lot of other history. Could you give your credentials a little bit? No, seriously, to the camera. I know you're in several organizations.
Okay.
If you would. Please.
Yeah. Basically, this is the Lower Delmarva Genealogy Society. I'm past president of this. But basically now I keep their library. We had a library that was downtown, and excuse me, we had a library that was downtown, the Wicomico Library, which we kind of stocked it with our personnel. They had a Maryland room, and we kind of covered that and did genealogy from there. And eventually the library said that they wanted to get out of that. And when they did, they gave us a lot of the things that they had. And we opened, first we had a room up in the courthouse, which was not very accessible because it was upstairs. So then we rented a room across the street from the courthouse. And we were in there and had our library with all of our books in there. So eventually it became, we had to pay for that. And eventually, because of the cost, our funds were going down. So we moved the library to my house up in the attic. And they were, the group was kind enough to pay for half on the air conditioning and half on the carpet. And so I made a room, and that's where we still are. And the library has grown extremely, about 4 times the size it was before. In fact, I just got some other books a couple weeks ago that I put up there. But we've had 3 different people who have donated their libraries to us, and we have put them in with our collection. So our collection is a pretty good size. It's probably just about the size of the Maryland room at Snow Hill now. So it has really grown. I'm also president of the Historical Society, Wicomico Historical Society. I've been president of that for, I guess, about 6 or 8 years now. And I'm past president of Preservation Trust, Wicomico Preservation Trust. And once I gave that up, then they asked me if I would become president of the Historical Society. I'm involved in woodworking and all kinds of other things. So, and I'm a historian of our church and going to a church meeting after I leave here. So I stay busy, and that's what's keeping me alive. So you don't need to record that, but so we've got a very good organization here. Our problem is our organization is getting older, and we're getting very few younger ones. I would love to see her join. But our organization is getting older, and you know, it's going to come to a point where some of us aren't going to be here anymore. I'm 84, so I'm getting up there. I guess that's basically. Anything else you want me to talk about?
Well, I know you have a variety of topics that you're able to speak on at different locations.
Okay, I do PowerPoint shows that I take to nursing homes and assisted living facilities, and I do about 9 of them a month. Before COVID, I was doing up to 20 a month, and decided that was just too much. So I'm still doing that, and you know, people call and ask me to go out and do talks and all. So enjoy doing that. Just did one before I came here. Anything else you have?
I would like to ask a question, just to explain a bit, because some people do not understand like the value, and there's a lot of value in preserving our history. It's preserving knowledge. It's giving knowledge to the future generations. Can you explain a bit about your perspective on the importance of why the preservation of history and preserving all these types of buildings is so important for Wicomico County and for our country?
Well, my feeling is that if you don't learn from history, you end up repeating the same mistakes you've made in the past. And sometimes people learn from that, and sometimes they don't. But you know, there have been so many different things that have happened here on the Eastern Shore and in America that have created problems. And if they had been following what history has done, they'd know they were repeating the same mistakes again and again. As far as the buildings, I think you come back and you look at one of these old buildings, and you, especially for some of us that are a little bit older, we remember things from the past. We remember what happened, who was where, and it brings things back to us. And, even going over old pictures, trying to get some pictures to send to different places. I went through a lot of my pictures, and it brought back so many memories. And having the old houses and having the history, the signs that tell about it, just keep people from forgetting what happened keep them from forgetting what happened in the past. And hopefully, they'll learn from that and change their ways in the future.
Thank you. And you mentioned that you have this library up in your house. Is it just like textbooks, or is it like letters and family books where it tells like the history of families here in our area?
Yes, there is actually 16 feet of genealogies and autobiographies up there. There are books that take the history and tell you the names of people, because that's what's so important to many of us, who people were, who lived when, who was related to us. And that's what the genealogy is all about. So there's a large section of that. And then I have it broken down into Wicomico, Somerset, Worcester, Dorchester counties, and the history in those places. I just got a set of books that were from each state in the United States. So it's a whole set of books. We have things from Delaware, things from a lot of other states, but of course we focus mostly on Sussex County in Delaware and the 3 or 4 counties down here and down in Virginia. My family came up from Virginia and settled in Maryland because they were driven out of Virginia because they were Quakers. And at the time, the people in Virginia were basically what you call Episcopal now, but they were called, let's see, I've forgotten the name of it. They were called Anglicans at that time. And they wanted Virginia to stay in the Anglican Church, which was originally the Church of England. And consequently, they burned the meeting house down that the family built and drove us up into Maryland. And there were a number of families that were with that group that came up. William Penn in Pennsylvania wanted to take over all the Eastern Shore. The lower 3 counties of Delaware were actually the lower 3 counties of Pennsylvania before the Revolutionary War. So Pennsylvania, even though we called it Delaware, it was still part of Pennsylvania. And the lines have changed. The Mason-Dixon lines were what established where Maryland and Delaware stopped. If you go up over the Delmar line, you run into Delaware today, but if you were back there 150 years ago, you were still in Maryland. And a lot of that, was tried to be decided, and that's what the Mason-Dixon line was about, to decide where that line was. And when you do genealogy and try to go back and find them, you can't find where people are, because if they lived in Sussex County, they may be registered down here in Maryland, or vice versa, because the state line was not, permanent like it is today.
Thank you.
I thank you very much.